guys, today I'm trying to fix a problem. As you can hear, my heater's on, or the air conditioning's on right now in my E46. I'm trying to figure out an issue where it blows cold-ish air out of the left vent, so the driver's vent, but warm to hot air out of the passenger vent. So it's about a 10-degree difference from this left side vent here to the right side vent, 92 to 80. So 11 to 12 degree different in temperature. Over here, this one near the door is all the way down at 70, 68. And it just keeps on getting colder. I just turned the car on. The one over here, way on the other side, is 96. So I've heard that might be an issue with low freon, and it might also be an issue with the heater control valve. I've checked my freon, and it sounds, I think it's good. So I'm not sure that the freon is the problem. First I'm going to check the heater control valve, because I also have a problem with the heat. When I turn on the heat, the vents are not equal. Like there's cooler air, it seems, coming out of, I think, the driver's side than the passenger side. So it's pointing me more to heater control valve issue than it is to freon issue. So I'm going to start there. Alright, so the heater control valve is located underneath the air box here. It's buried pretty much right under here. So you got to take apart a few things. Pretty easy. There's a band clamp here that you need to remove. And then there's two 10 millimeters here. And you can remove the air box. You shouldn't have to remove this piece over here, but I might remove it anyway just to get it out of the way. But I'll remove all that stuff right now, and then I'll show you where I'm at. Okay, now that I've gotten the air box out, and also don't forget the MAF plug, so you gotta disconnect that to get the whole thing out. Underneath here, I'm gonna take off this upper part of the boot as well. There's another band clamp right down here that you might be able to see, and those are 6 millimeter band clamps, or you can use a flathead screwdriver. You can see the heater control valve down here, if I don't block the light, right there. And so it's got an electrical connection at the front of it, two hoses that have antifreeze running through them at the back. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this cable right here. Actually, it's not a cable, it's a let's see, it's a vacuum hose out of the way. And to do that, you just unclip it. It's clipped right into the side there. Okay, in order to try to lose as little antifreeze as possible while I'm doing this, I'm going to try to do this, take this thing apart. It's underneath here, hold on. I'm going to try to take this thing apart. There's some Torx bits, I'm not sure, they look like T10s or T15s. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top. And then you can take off this actuator after you remove this clip right here with the electric wires on it. But if you do that, you're going to lose some of your fluid, your radiator fluid. So in order to not do that, what I've come up with here is I've got a C-clamp, and I've got two halves. I've basically cut a PVC pipe that I had lying around in the garage in half, and I've used it as a wedge so that I don't break those hoses, and I've used it to clamp the hoses off. So hopefully I've clamped it enough so that the fluid doesn't leak out. Okay, so next I'm going to remove this electric connection right here. So just push in on the side here that way towards the actuator and lift straight up. And then that will come out like that. Okay, so the Torx bit you need is a T10. Okay, now you can wiggle and lift the unit off. Okay, once you have the unit out, I basically put the inner workings back inside of the outer sleeve here that has the electrical connector on it, and I've hooked up 12 volt positive and negative to the two terminals, and now I can bench test it. You can see that the actuator extends. When I cut the power, it should suck back in, but it's not. Let me see if I can push it back in. Yep. Let me try it again. Yeah, there's a delay. As it's forced out by electricity and the magnet inside of here. And the spring wants to bring it back, but I think it's not going completely straight in and out. And so you can kind of hear it too. It's rubbing. So I'm gonna try to, I guess I'll just lubricate it and see if I can get it to slide in and out easier. And after merely touching it with my hands for a few seconds, now I can see there's a crack here in this rubber gasket that's supposed to be in here, and so this is not supposed to be here. You can see that the rubber is actually starting to fail, and it's got a bunch of cracks in it all the way around this gasket here. So that's not supposed to be there, and that's probably allowing antifreeze into locations where it's not supposed to be, or either that or it's not allowing the stopper to work appropriately, and so therefore it's not directing the flow of hot antifreeze where it needs to be. Actually, I added some lithium grease into that inner workings of that sleeve, and now the valve is working a lot better. It's not binding like it used to be, but the gasket is still torn. I'm going to replace this part with a new one. Okay, so here's a little tutorial about how this works. So when 12 volts is applied to this extends here, and then it makes contact down there, and it seats inside of this orifice down there, and it prevents water from flowing through to the heater core. So that prevents the heat inside. So what I'm guessing this problem with mine is it was stuck halfway or stuck partially open or closed. Therefore it was allowing heat to enter the heater core, and therefore the system wasn't, the AC, the refrigerant, wasn't able to keep up and cool the air enough. So that's my guess. When it's time to actually take out the unit here, take the clamp off. If you put a clamp on these two hoses right here to prevent the radiator fluid from leaking out, and then undo the two hose clamps. You can see them here. I think they're 6mm. They got a flathead screwdriver head on them. And then once those are loose, use your hand to just twist a little bit the hose, and that'll break the seal if there's been any seal formed over time, and that will allow you to get them off easier. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hose clamp or the clamp back on to prevent the fluid from leaking out of these, and then I'll pull the unit off. Okay, now I got the clamp back on there, and this is pretty easy to remove. Make sure you have the electrical connection out, and then you just pop it up. It's got these rubber grommets right here, and you pop it out of its holding spot by just pulling up on it. So there, now it's out. And now you just have to pull it out so it doesn't isn't connected anymore with the hoses. So just pull it straight forward. Okay, so when you pull this valve forward, it'll come out of these two hoses here, and you can see there's the connections. And here's the old one versus the new one. The new one comes with these rubber grommets for the mounting point, and it comes with basically everything you need. You just take off these two caps. And then you install it. Okay, so what I did was connect the two hoses and tighten down the clamps, 1 and 2. And now I'm going to take off the C clamp to let the fluid back in. And this unit just kind of presses back into place on its mounts. So just line it up and push it straight down like that. And the next part you put back together is this top hose to the intake, and that just presses into place, and then you tighten down the band clamp. Okay, next the bottom of the air box goes back in. This slot right here is used to line up with this piece of rubber down here, and then the two 10 millimeter bolt holes have to line up top. The top of the air box goes back in. There's these clips around the outside of the bottom of the air box, and one on the top right here that will just snug it into place. And then remember, you got to tighten down the band clamp on the upper hose for the intake around the MAF, and then plug in the MAF electrical connection too.